Hello, America. This is Scott and Shot live again from Gridley, California. I'm having fun today on this Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning. I'm not gonna have a shot right this second, but I will in a minute. I don't understand what's going on with our government anymore, and what's going on in our country when it comes to law and order, when it comes to the courts, the Supreme Court, and all that. I mean, everything Donald Trump right now, everything he's doing, the Democrats say is illegal. He's overstepping his bounds. He's got Elon Musk being the president, behind the scenes. They got all this stuff going on. As somebody explain this to me like I'm a 2-year-old. How could in this country could somebody go to school? They're a 4-point student. Okay, they end up going to college and they decide they want to become a lawyer. So they get a higher education. They go to school 6-8 years to become a lawyer. They take the bar. I mean, which is supposed to be pretty much universal, state to state. Countrywide. I mean, throughout the whole country about the same toughness. I mean, the same laws, and then they take the bar, and they all pass the same bar. That means that they all pass the same bar when it comes to taking a test about your knowledge of the law. They all pretty much answered on the questionnaires on these tests the same answer. So you got all these lawyers all over the country, all these judges, they all took the same bar. And so that means that to pass that bar, they had to answer these questions the same. And then they get out into the real world. And now, not one, they all interpret. You can put 20 lawyers in a room, and all 20 will interpret a law 20 different ways. You tell me how that is not, how is that possible? That makes me have to take a shot. How is it possible that you could have 20 different lawyers looking at a law? If you didn't tell them they're being examined and watched, if you asked them 20 different lawyers about a law, 20 different lawyers are going to tell you their interpretation of that law, and you probably only get a few people that said the same thing. I mean, is that what? I mean, why would anybody go to school if they can get out of, if they take all the tests to become a lawyer, to get their college degree, to take the bar to become a lawyer? How could they all have 20 different opinions when they all took the same exams and the same tests to become a lawyer? So they had to have the same answers back then, but yet then we got into the real world, into public service, where they were paying them money to where they're corrupt. I mean, how do they all have 20 different views on a law? Each one interprets that law in 20 different ways. I mean, I didn't know that our Constitution and the laws of the land were subject to that lawyer or judge's interpretation. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I thought it has to be by the law. They don't have to. I mean, but when I say by the law, that means when I say by the law, like Donald Trump, what he's doing, and with all these powers, with what he's doing for our country, which he got voted in to do, when they're trying to stifle him, how can these judges think that that's legitimate when he's just doing the job as the president of the United States? I mean, all these things are going to get thrown out by the Supreme Court when it goes before the Supreme Court. I mean, because they're all lawful acts. Donald Trump has the right to enact his government because he won the election. So I mean, but it baffles me that 20 different lawyers has 20. They all have 20 different opinions on this law, this amendment, this article. I mean, they all interpret it differently. But how did they get out of law school when if all they know how to do is interpret the law in their own way, not the actual law itself, written the way it was supposed to be written for the reason it was supposed to be written for. I mean, I'm saying it like that because it's a lot different. I mean, I don't want to specify on one thing, but the Constitution and the laws of the land are written in plain English, people. And if you were to take a test on these laws, in order to pass that test, I would have to think that everybody would have to give the same answer, right? So if everybody's giving the same answer on all these tests, quizzes, and all that on the laws of the land, the Constitution, how they all have a different outlook on it when they get into the public sector. I mean, how is it possible? How is it that all these different lawyers for the Democrats, how is it they see all these laws in such a different outlook? They view it differently. How is that possible when they all had to take the same test in order to get that law degree that they have, in order to practice law by taking the bar? I mean, doesn't that make sense to you? How the fuck are they allowed to be a lawyer and this person be a lawyer over here if we can't even have them agreeing that a law that when they're in school, they both said the same thing on the test to pass to become a lawyer, but now they're different on it. How is that possible? How's it? I mean, that means one of them's lying. One of them's not being an honest lawyer. I mean, because how can all these lawyers take the same tests, take the same bars with basically the same answers on it, but they get it all so wrong? You tell me how that's possible. You tell me how all these judges can be so different if they know the law. It's just like that new Supreme Court justice, that whatever Jackson or anything, she doesn't even know the definition of the difference between a man and a woman. How could she be allowed to be on the Supreme Court if she doesn't even know the biological difference between a man and a woman? She's a woman. How does she not know that a man has a penis? How does she not know that a man has a penis? It doesn't have full-fledged titties. I mean, how does she not know that? In what context she says? That's what I'm saying, people. How does she even get out of law school to be put in a position to where she's on the Supreme Court now if she can't even answer a simple definition that all humans know, even a retarded child that has a little boy retard, Down syndrome, can tell you that he's different than a girl. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how does she not know the difference between a biological man and a biological woman? She couldn't answer that. She couldn't answer it, but she got confirmed onto the Supreme Court. That says all you got to know about. That's all you need to know about our court system nowadays. If there's a sitting Supreme Court justice in America that can't give you the definition between a man and a woman, or even cite the differences, I mean, under any context, I mean, that tells you she's a fucking dumbass at best. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Don't get me started. I can do this all day long. I mean, I'll just stop at a dumbass. I mean, how do we allow that to get on our Supreme Court? I mean, so people, the laws are written the way they're written. Donald Trump is doing everything he's doing is lawful. The Democrats want you to think it's not lawful, but their lawyers know it's lawful. They all took the same fucking test to become a lawyer. They all took in bars. They're all basically the same, state by state. The federal ones are all the same. I mean, they all pass the same test, and to pass the same test, there's only a right and a wrong answer, right? Right? I mean, the lawyers aren't allowed to put their interpretation into the law when it comes to going to court, are they? Are they? I thought it's supposed to be the law as written. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, everything's as written, and I mean, normally until you get some rich motherfucker who's on the Epstein list or something. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, people. I mean, we need to wise up and realize that we're fucked. I mean, we can't even get two lawyers to say the same fucking thing. They can't agree on nothing. All right, man. This is Scott. I gotta go. My phone's ringing. You guys have a good